I think I've almost even, if I remember right, and I don't know who to attribute this to, but I remember somebody talking about fear in the context of anytime you're afraid of something, you have to deal with that or confront that because you know if you're afraid of it that it's important to you in one way or another. If it wasn't important to you that like essentially the consequences of that situation, then you wouldn't be afraid of it because
Sure.
you pay it no mind. So
Hmm.
it's like fear is almost this like indicator that something's important to you and you should pay attention to it rather than kind of cower away from it.
Well, it has control over you at that point. Like
Right.
if you're too afraid to do it, or it makes you shy away from an opportunity or a task or a trail. I mean, it had control over you, and
Yeah.
that's no fun.
Right. You mentioned earlier, kind of throughout the years of training, you've had injuries. Have you ever had any, I guess, acute injuries from crashes or anything like that?
Yeah, yeah, fair number of the usual broken bones,
Yeah.
mostly broken bones. I've been pretty lucky, knock on wood. Uh, Wrists, fingers. I did a, they call it a skier's thumb,
Okay.
but I did it on my mountain bike handlebars. Like I went over the bars and my thumb got caught,
Mm,
tore all the ligaments in my thumb, so had to
okay.
get that reconstructed. Most of my injuries, honestly, were from sports long before mountain biking. I've done
Okay.
lots of other sports too, so um, like I tore my ACL at 12 doing gymnastics.
So it's like old tat. It just reminded me of a conversation I had with pro triathlete Cecilia Davis Hayes. I think this is back in like episode 5, so very early on in the show. And so I actually broke my collarbone in a bike crash in a race last year. It seems like very very long ago, but also recent. So I can't. It's hard to put the timing. And I know like I had trepidation getting back on the bike and feeling comfortable at speed downhill. And she went through a more traumatic event where like I just broke my collarbone. She was racing crits professionally and got in a crash. She like broke her pelvis and multiple other bones, and she also kind of went through that. So because you've gone through that, I curious like did you when you're getting back on the bike when you're going downhill again, do you have to kind of I'll say fight the demons back after
Yes,
that injury? You know?
absolutely. We call it having a monkey on your shoulder.
Yeah.
And you can have a monkey on your shoulder for one individual technical feature, or you can have a monkey on your shoulder, period. It's yeah, it's very real. That's a very real feeling coming back from injury. And honestly, I don't know anyone who doesn't have that.
Yeah.
Um, and I was recently talking to a woman in one of my clinics about this very thing. She had injured herself the year prior. She was feeling very timid and just sort of, lost a lot of her confidence. She wasn't willing to try some stuff in the clinic. And she said that she told me she was embarrassed. She was embarrassed that she was afraid and so timid. And
Mm.
that was kind of a red flag for me because this happens to everyone.
Yeah.
And I told her that, and she had no idea. Like, she had no idea that everyone feels that monkey on their shoulder when they came back. She thought she
Mm-hmm.
was the only one. So everyone feels that. And it just comes down to patience. You just have to have patience.
Mm-hmm.
You have the skills to do these things. You've done them before. They're scary now, but you've done them before, so you
Mm-hmm.
you know you have the skills to do them. It just comes down to patience in building up your confidence. So usually what happens is you take a step back and you do some easier stuff. Like if I get hurt on a 40-foot gap, then as soon as I come back, I'm not hitting 40-foot gaps right away. I'm going
Right.
back and doing 20-foot gaps until I feel really dialed, and then I'll bump up to 30, and then maybe I'll try 40 again. So it's usually just taking a step back and being super patient and working your way back up to that level. But yeah, it happens to everyone. And it takes longer than you like.
Right. And that's always the thing where it's like I want to be back at it now, but there's still that that fear in the back of my mind that gnawing sensation where it's like maybe you shouldn't do that or that's not
Yeah, so the danger of trying to push through it too fast And I've seen people who try to just jump right back in. They're like, I've got this monkey on my shoulder, but I'm just going to ignore it. The danger of that is most of the time, in mountain biking at least, you get hurt because you hesitate,
Right.
right? You hit your brakes after you've already committed to a feature, or um, you try to avoid something at the last minute. Hesitating is usually what causes most of the problems. So if you're trying to push through and ignore the monkey on your shoulder, you have a pretty high chance of panic breaking at the last second and
Yeah.
maybe causing another problem. So
Yeah.
that patient workup after taking a step back is really key.
See, and that's funny enough. That's almost exactly not necessarily the same verbiage, but almost exactly the same thing Cecilia said, where it's like, we're on the road, you're on the trail, but we're both on bikes, or
Yeah.
all three of us are on bikes, and it's a matter of like, I get fear about going 40 miles an hour downhill. On you got tiny tires on a road bike or triathlon bike, and gravel was the situation with me. I was going around a turn and nobody touched me. It was just gravel in the wrong place,
Mm-hmm.
and just bike just came out from under me. So that's not even. Then there's that fear of like, do I hit gravel wrong, or sand or anything like that? But yeah, she mentioned, um, because of that fear, yeah, you get more in your own head, and then you start braking downhill when you probably shouldn't be, and then you can fishtail the bike, and then it can come out from under you and make things worse because you're going at it too hard too soon. So it's just kind of interesting to see you guys both say essentially the same thing from that experience.
So that gravel situation is really important because I think this time when you're working back from a monkey on your shoulder is the perfect time to work on your basic skills.
Mm-hmm.
Because one, you've already had to take a step back and you
Right.
have to kind of slow down a little bit and be patient. So, and two, you're trying to build confidence back up again. Well, the
Right.
best way to build confidence is to build your skills. And so that's the best time to do it. If you're scared about riding gravel, take a skills clinic for mountain bikes and learn how to skid and learn how to fishtail a bike on gravel and be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I find myself doing stuff like that on my commuter bike all the time. I might slide through something and think, oh, well, if I didn't have my mountain bike skills, that could have ended badly.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a perfect time to work on bike handling or whatever type of skill, because that really helps with your confidence building on during that process.
Yeah, I've basically taken it as, I say gravel. It was more like sand. So what happened with me in particular is we were going around a blind corner. Again, we're on the road. A guy came on the inside of me during the turn when he really shouldn't have to pass, which forced me out
Yeah.
where there's sand on this side of the road, and I just didn't see it. So the bike was out from under me. Even with those, like in my particular case, even with better handling skills, I don't think there's anything I could have done. It happened like that quick. Like I was sliding on the road before I realized what happened.
There are always freak accidents, right?
Yeah.
Always freak accidents. But in terms of building your confidence, it can just really help build it back up
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
quickly.
Right. I'm with you. And I know there are times when I've taken a corner and ended up off the road on the gravel. Like bike is not supposed to be off the road, but I'm somehow riding on the grass or riding on gravel on a triathlon bike when I really shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure those skills, along with the confidence, do have a lot of practicality as well.
Yeah. See, then you just bunny hop back onto the road and you're all good.
Right. I think I get more afraid of popping a tire, in especially these last couple of years, just with a series of mechanicals, and this because those tires are so thin. It's just so easy to pop a tire, and
Do
then there's nothing you did. It's just
yeah.
days over because you popped a tire.
Do triathletes run tubeless?
I do,
Yeah.
but not always. It just
Mm,
depends on the person's setup.
got it.
Uh, but yeah, my setup is for the particular race wheels I have. That's what fits. That I can't use. I can't use the other. I for losing the name, but yeah, I can't use the tube tire on my particular
Got it.
race wheels.
We always carry those tire plugs
Hmm.
because when you're racing and you get like a puncture, you can pop a tire plug in and be back racing before you don't have to like quit halfway through.
Is it
And I've
easy for
used
you
them
to
on my road bike.
identify them?
I've done it. Say what?
Can you see where the puncture is? It's like if I puncture a tire, it'll take me a good 5 minutes, if not longer, to find where the puncture even is.
Well, if it's big enough to flat a tubeless tire, it's going to be pretty big.
Okay.
Because a sealant will seal anything smaller.
Okay.
So if it's big enough to flat a tubeless tire, you should have an
I
actual.
guess I should say I'm running tubulars, not tubeless.
Got it.
So I should clarify that is that it doesn't have the
Sealant.
three types of tires.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm running tubulars. I'm not running tubeless.
Yeah.
I think I could run tubeless on my rims, but I don't have it set up that way currently.
Yeah, I know nothing about that kind of racing.
Yeah.
I run Tubeless on my computer bike. Um, and I mean, I've been running a plug for like 200 miles and it's still holding strong.
Nice.
So those tire plugs are awesome.
I'll have to look into that. Maybe upgrading my wheel set. We'll see. We'll see how things go. As we're running out of time here, I asked this question of everybody because it's kind of universal. I like to ask if you, so after, say, a hard workout, hard race, something like that, if you could only choose one food for recovery for the rest of your life, what do you choose?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, ice cream. That's the obvious answer here.
Okay.
No, I don't tell my coach I said that. Um,
That's okay, but a lot
I
of people say things, ice cream, pizza, beer. You'll do well with me anytime you're in Kansas City. Just look me. I recently got into making like small batch craft ice cream. So if you're in Kansas City, just
Oh, wow.
send me an email. But okay, let's give the official
Okay.
answer for the coach.
Yeah, I'm really boring when it comes to food. Like I eat the same thing almost all the time. Um, so protein pancakes. It's hard to go wrong with protein
Okay.
pancakes.
Okay.
I mean, that's pretty much my go-to for every meal all the time, if possible. My husband would be appalled. He's the chef in our family. So when he's home, he like cooks these nice meals. When he travels half the year, I'm living on protein pancakes and oatmeal. So, yeah.
You do what works. And if people want to see what you're up to, as you're dabbling in racing nowadays, can they find you anywhere? Instagram, blog, anything like that?
Yeah, Instagram is my go-to. It's just my name at Ann Galyean.
Okay. Get you put down here. And thanks for coming on to chat with me today.
Thanks. Always a good time.